You're about to experience an awesome live stream where I show you inside my actual week as a full-time crypto YouTuber. This is my life, and you can see that I got millions of views. I make a full-time income out of this, and I'll show you how that actually works from the inside. So I'm gonna do this. I've seen others. I'm doing this as a live stream because I love to actually interact with my community and get to know you all and hear what you all have to say, which if I'm doing videos, I can't do, and the YouTube comments are crap for having a community. So I do most of my videos now, or most of what I do is I live stream on YouTube. And then I talk to my audience during these crypto live streams. And I've done a lot of videos in the past. I've been a full-time YouTuber since 2011. And I've got 3 channels today. I've had millions and millions of views. I just did a video recently where I showed my, what I've learned and things like that on YouTube. So I like to have just a real, raw, authentic experience. And this video I just did, 13 years of YouTube knowledge in 1 hour. This explains like what I know about YouTube. So this is going to be more of a diary entry of what I actually did during the week and a lot less about YouTube. So I've taken notes throughout the entire week because I've found trying to record videos and stuff, it's amazing how fast you forget things. And I'm a different kind of crypto YouTuber. I'm a different kind of YouTuber than you might notice generally. I have a real life. I'm not up in this studio all week filming and editing. I hate editing, so I mostly don't do it. That's why I love live streaming too, is because you don't have to edit and people know it's not edited when you're live streaming. I look at it, if I have to do more than 3 hours a day on 3 YouTube channels combined, that's too much. Like, that's not my idea of a lifestyle as a YouTuber. Being a crypto YouTuber is probably the easiest way you can make money. Like, if you know anything about crypto, you could literally watch my Jerry Banfield crypto videos and just repeat what I say and change some titles and thumbnails around, and you could probably be a full-time crypto YouTuber too. Like, the niche you pick, being a gaming YouTuber is really hard because there's a lot of them. Being a YouTuber in most areas, you'll get a lot of views and not make much money. But if you're a business, crypto, finance YouTuber, there's a lot of opportunities. You might not get as many views, but there's lots of money. So what I'm going to do is I've got these diary entries through the week of just my real life and my thoughts. And I'm going to go through this because, to me, what's really interesting is my ordinary life as a human being. It's, numbers and stuff on YouTube get boring quickly. And I did a video about that. So I'm going to do live diary entries like this about once a week. And then what's nice is I can just take notes because, Saturday, December 14th was 5 days ago. I'm interested to reread these live too, because I forget stuff in my own life. Like, it's crazy to see how fast your own life slips away and you forget the day-to-day details. So I think having a diary or journal is really helpful for that. So here's Saturday, December 14th. So if some of you might have been expecting, like, he's going to film from 8 different camera angles and have all this cut footage, I see people do that and I'm like, that's too much work. Like, I'm not doing that. And if I get less views, I'll take less views because I'm not putting in, some of these guys are putting in 30 hours to record a video like this. Nah, I'll do it in about an hour and take a few hours of notes during the week. So Saturday, and then I can do this format every week. So Saturday, I switched from a live streaming only strategy. I was thinking about this. I put out a video Saturday, but I'm like, since I don't like to edit my videos, and since I'm so practiced at live streaming, it makes sense for me to live stream. So I spent hours thinking about this. I've had months. This idea's been in the background. And then I also spent hours simplifying my crypto portfolio. This meant swapping a lot of tokens. As a crypto YouTuber, everybody wants you to shield their token and have their token and play with their token. And that's not good for me personally though. Simplicity is good for me. I have a lot to think about. I have 3 YouTube channels. I have a wife. I have kids. I go to yoga. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous 5 days a week. I'm sober over 10 years. I go to massage. I have my mom's across the street. Like, I don't need any more complexity in my life. I get 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep a night. I take great care of myself. So on Saturday, I had a 2-hour call this morning with a member who's deep into the internet computer ecosystem, working on how to solve the problem of small project marketing. And I came up with an idea that an open chat channel, which I set this up like the same day. I love how fast. One of the amazing things about what I do is I set stuff up and I execute it almost immediately. Kate, nice to see you. Thanks for being the first one to watch on YouTube, Jerry Banfield Experience, while we're doing this live. So I set a channel up on my open chat where you pay $100 a month and then I'll consistently market your project. So it has a payment every month. It's 100 USDC a month. And then I go through and I market the project. So this to me is one of the hardest things in crypto. Yeah, sure, if you got a big project, you can afford to pay me $5,000 to do, a bunch of videos and I'll deliver 1 million impressions on it like I did for Open Chat. Or like Definity paid me $25,000 and I delivered 5 to 10 million impressions for them. But what about all these small projects? They've got $100 and I want to promote them also. So I came up with a great system based on talking to this guy. And it's, like there's all these small projects, like this guy's project, Stefan, is OG. Now, normally I wouldn't bother, scrolling down and covering a token like this. But what's awesome is, he pays $100 a month and I go look at his token, and feature it and talk about it. But I'm just more of an observer. I'm simply stating the facts. Like, here's this OG token and they've got their own community on Open Chat. They've got an account on X. They got a website. Here's where they launched a coin. Here's what they're doing on their profile. The creator put hundreds and hundreds of hours into his NFT collection and launched that successfully and raised thousands of dollars on it and has a community and is hoping to do an SNS. Like, this was a solution I came up with by having a 2-hour call and figuring out, like, hey, there's a bunch of projects on ICP that would love to just pay me $100 a month to occasionally be featured in a video without me having to do a paid promotion and kind of make a big deal of it. So that was really productive, and I'm very happy to see 5 days later how I executed on that. Now, on Saturday, I did a 2-hour call, but I had not been sick for 2 years. And on Saturday, Friday, I felt good enough to go to my power yoga and to do some videos. But Saturday, I'm like, man, I need to take it easy. And I was still snotting all over the place and stuff. So I'm like, maybe this is what it, maybe I have got something. So I took lots of extra rest on Saturday. I did add a little bit to my dance music project and created a new dance song. But, for a dance, this is a lot more fun. So I took a walk and didn't listen to anything. I think it's really helpful to take walks and get out there. Like, I walked around my neighborhood with the dog and I didn't, I often will have headphones or listen to something, but I didn't. And the great news is Saturday night, I started to feel aggravated again, which to me is a good sign my energy's kicking back in. Because often the first way I know I'm feeling better after I've, had a drain on energy and some symptoms, which some of you'd call being sick, is, I start to get aggravated. And it's like, oh, good, I have enough energy. Often the energy comes up kind of surprising. And if you're not ready to have energy and focus it, it can be aggravating. So I felt a little weird Saturday because the wife and kids were doing a Christmas activity I chose not to attend because another family member was there that I prefer not to see. I feel a bit of FOMO, but much better not being around that family member. And I went to a Christmas party, which for some reason I didn't hardly talk about here. And I also, on this particular day, I traded 130 ICP for my JBBJ token, and then I swapped it right back. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have some token that I'm constantly promoting. I just got this new marketing system, so there's going to be enough work to do with that. Like, having too much is just as much of a problem as having too little. In fact, having too little can be really nice in some ways, whereas having too much can really suck. So I forgot to put that in a diary. On Sunday, and what you'll notice is most of my life is not about doing YouTube. which is great. Like, I watched a guy that I copied this title format off of. You know, he spends his whole week doing YouTube and client stuff. I mean, he seemed to do, like, most of what he did was work by himself in his studio. And us, you know, then there's a minority of time, like going to the gym and hardly any hanging out with friends. Like, my life's the opposite. I'm hanging out with people. That's what's great about, to me, being a crypto YouTuber. I do an hour, a couple hours a day. I'm good. I made enough money. We're on, you know, I want to have time to garden. Like on Sunday, I finally cleaned my gardens out for months after the hurricanes. So we had hurricanes in St. Petersburg, Florida, that flooded my house for the first time since it's been built 50 years ago. And it flooded all the gardens with this, you know, salt water, and that screwed them up. So after months of having my gardens, you know, that had sweet potatoes in it, and we were going to pull them up and replace it, but with the flood, the soil was kind of crappy. So I finally, after months, got around to cleaning those gardens out. And one thing I don't like as a creator is there's no clear boundaries on my work, which in the past has been very easy to overwork and to do too much and then let my real life slide. What you don't want to do is let your real life slide. You want to make time for real life. And, you know, never let real life get to a point where, you know, you don't have time for real life, where all you're doing is YouTube. I also ordered the new Apple AirPods 2 Pro after learning they have transparency mode to let the outside in. Like, that's an awesome feature. They have like speakers on or, you know, microphones on the outside to take outside noise in to put them into your ear. I thought everybody around was just being unsafe on these. I didn't realize that most of the people wearing these AirPods, they have transparency mode. Now, some people might be noise canceling and living dangerously, you know, out riding bikes and crossing the street with noise canceling on. But yeah, you can assume a lot of people are being safe. And it left me wondering, like, what else don't I know? Because I've been fooling around with these cheap $30 Bluetooths for years, and I got the new AirPods Prods. We'll talk about that. They're so much better. So I listened to a video while I was doing the garden about the battle of disclosure with Dr. Stephen Greer and Billy Carson on Forbidden Knowledge. To me, it's really exciting times we're living in, and they were talking about, is there going to be some like fake alien invasion that, you know, the fake part will be that the actual craft are human owned and human made, and it's being made to look like it's aliens for the purpose of getting the world under a one world order and funding a bunch of unnecessary military spending. Like, to me, the Cold War was an example of a whole bunch of, you know, you've put all this funding into the military industrial complex and, you know, suppressed people and had people die in these wars for what? Like, it was all useless. And, you know, the people got fooled into that, essentially. Like, you could have tried communism and capitalism and tested those out without it being violent, without it being a war, without all this spending. The people got tricked into that. And after there was peace for a little while and we're done with the Cold War, then they get tricked into the battle on terrorism. And yes, real people died all over the place as a part of this. But the trick is that we don't need to do this stuff. If we collectively will stop living in fear, we don't have to live this way. We don't have to battle terrorism if we'll just love people and listen to people and take care of people. And then there's a question of how much of that stuff that's terrorism is really an inside job, where somebody that is in the military industrial complex is also funding the terrorism so that they can get more funding for their military industrial complex. So the battle for disclosure, they're looking that a fake alien invasion will be the next thing. That the war on terrorism is kind of fizzled. Cold War's over. World War II's over. It's like, what is the military industrial complex going to cook up to get themselves more money and to try and trick people again into fear and just do what you're told? You know, we saw what they cooked up in 2020, and that sputtered out because a lot of us realized what BS that was. So I hope if there is something else that's attempted, people will see through that and not fall for it. And so that was a lot of the video on Forbidden Knowledge. So I spend a lot of time like listening and expanding my mind. I love stuff that expands my mind, which as a YouTuber, it's really important for me not to just have the same old crap on my videos. I fined my son on Sunday $5 for screaming, "Shut up" today. and then picked up his toys. I asked my son and my daughter, he's 6, to do stuff nicely, but since we don't hit the kids, it's like I've been looking, we look and try and figure out like what is an effective way to encourage them to, to reward their nice behavior and stop the nasty behavior. We've also tried just essentially no rewards, no punishment, kind of let them run free. And that doesn't work because they've got into these, they'll get into these bad behaviors like screaming and, swearing, being nasty and hitting. It's like you have to set boundaries. So it turns out giving my kids money when they do stuff I want, like they get in bed on time, and fining them when they do stuff I don't want, it turns out money's a really effective control system. Who would have thought? So Laura seemed a bit worn out today and aggravated after morning with the kids. And I'm glad I was able to help her on Sunday by encouraging her to... I encouraged her to take a nap and let me help out. So around noon, I found one thing that really... Laura has a hard time asking me for help sometimes, although she's gotten a lot better at it over the years, because she doesn't want to bother me. She wants me to, feel like I have time to do what I want to. So I've learned to kind of pay attention to her and to try and insist on helping her when she needs it. And on Sunday, she needed it. So I often feel really good when I do that too. Like I feel really good helping her get a nap. I feel really good, like having lunch and doing laundry with the kids while Laura sleeps. Wait, I screwed this. Oh, so on this Sunday, I had a second AA Christmas party to go to. And I somehow screwed up my dates on here. I don't know what this was Saturday. Well, no, this is Sunday. All right, so yeah, I do. All right, so this is the right day. So I had an AA Christmas party, another one, and I end up leaving an hour after it starts. I'm cleaning up, and I'm screwing around with more of my crypto stuff too. But at the Christmas party, there's mostly people I know from a couple of groups, and at this one, I know almost everybody there. At the one the day before, I didn't know a lot of the people there. And I enjoyed some pasta salad and cookies while talking to a few people I know. The most interesting at the party, there was a woman in her 80s, and she's still so pretty. And I told her I think she's pretty, and she said the same back to me. And she looks deep into my eyes, and I start sweating all over. Like, I'm pretty empathic, and I could feel all the desire that's still there in her. Like, her husband is in the hospital and might be passing soon, and she's still got so much energy. Plus, she's got a whole bunch of wisdom and stuff behind it, which is really beautiful. So that was a lovely, very intense moment. I often feel like I can handle being more intense than a lot of other people, but this woman clearly had a capacity to handle more intensity than me. I was a little intimidated by her. So I talked to another lady too about being less superficial in my life and giving everyone a chance to share their personality and beauty with me instead of just talking to people I feel that are attractive and worthy of my attention. See, what I love about my life as a full-time YouTuber is, I'm spending a lot of time in my life working on my life. I'm not just dumping time into YouTube and watching videos and looking at data. I mean, like, to me, this is a great thing to be doing during the week, is thinking about this stuff, because then I have this to talk about. So I've had a challenge, especially the last few years, as I've gotten to be more healthy and more attractive and I love myself. I've also noticed a gravitation towards being more superficial, where, if you're not attractive, I'm not talking to you. I mean, men and women. Like, if you're a guy that's like overweight and, not well groomed, it's like, I'm not gonna be friendly to you. And saying girls, even more strict standards. Like, the prettiest girl in the room's the one that I should be talking to. And that's something that's new, because I didn't used to have that much self-confidence, and I didn't used to be so superficial. I used to really kind of talk to and be willing to be friends with everybody. But the last few years, like, how did I get so superficial where, if you're some fat, ugly chick, it's like you don't exist to me. But if you're some hot chick and you're not paying attention to me, I feel thwarted. It's like, that's really superficial. So I've talked with her about that at the party, and she said she's had a similar struggle. And I'm reflecting, like, I'm happy that I can see I'm reducing, I'm opening back up to more people and not being so like laser focused superficially. So I head to my massage after this and tell my friend my experience with the family member, where there's a family member that is our personalities are not compatible with each other enough. I talked about this in a lot of my diary entries. I don't want to go over all that again. So you can watch some of the previous diary entries I recorded as videos if you'd like to hear more about that. And my friend shares several experiences of, like, to me, which are so funny. Like, from the experiences she shared, people from the story she shared, like, there were people that thought she was like trying to seduce their husband and stuff. And like, it was just crazy the stuff other people came up with and other people's jealousy. And at least from my point of view, it seems like they just came up with this stuff on their own. That sure, that, she's pretty, but like from there, she didn't really do anything. It's like just her being pretty. These other people came up with these stories that didn't seem to be there on her end, at least from my understanding. So, at the same time, then this family member told me that all this stuff I was just coming up with. There was no truth. And, it's kind of the opposite end of it. It's like, it's hard to figure out, especially if people can't be honest and really share their dark sides. Like, where are people, just making things up on their own versus where is there some truth there? So my friend helps me understand some underlying reasons I might have got my feelings hurt with this family member more. And I'm really happy to just, not see them. It's simple. I think they're happier too that way. And my friend's talking about moving back home, which, this massage therapist I spend, an hour and a half with in person every week or so. That I'm not thrilled about the prospect of her going home and not getting to see her in person, because it's hard to have a relationship on the phone versus in person. But at the same time, that seems like it'd probably be best for her life. So I come home and I'm excited to work on my ICP presentation for tomorrow. I have now a presentation with almost 100 slides. And I see all these things in the ICP ecosystem that are exciting, but it's so easy to lose track of them. So this was a great inspiration, like for my live streams, to make sure I've got a ton of material. And the family then comes home from the movies a bit aggravated. So instead of hanging out with them and washing the dishes and cleaning up the house like usual, I do actually hide in my room and work and get on my presentation to prepare for doing live streams on Monday, which it leaves me feeling bad. I'm like, I wish I hadn't done that. And, I tell my wife, I'm like, look, when you came home, you're all aggravated. You hurt my feelings. Like, I'm here. I had a massage. I went to a party. I had a great day. And you come in aggravated, throwing criticism out there. You blow my buzz. And she's like, I'm sorry. I'm, not feeling right today. And then I admit my part of the deal. It's like, I wish when you came home and did that, I hadn't just immediately retreated. I wish I had, worked through that right away and then spent the time with you guys. So at the meeting, I see a girl I met a few months ago, and she's memorable because the AA meeting, she told me the first time she heard me share that she thought of me every day after that because she wanted to be as joyful as me in her life. And I often wonder, like, who's thinking of me that I don't know directly, but I'm indirectly feeling, because I know we're all telepathically connected. And, a lot of you all online are thinking of me, but I'm not easily able to think of each of you individually, although I think of you all as a collective. And this is why I'm committed to live streaming, because then when I'm live, you all have the chance to have more of a mutual interaction with me where I can get to know you. And I do have one-on-one calls on my website at jerrybanfield.com. Now, those, you need to pay hundreds of dollars to schedule those, but those are there, and I talk to people every week on those. And an open chat, which is also on jerrybanfield.com. You can really get to know me there. You can even make a video about yourself and tell me about your life and share it with me in open chat. So back to this girl. I sit next to this girl since there's seats on both sides of her, and I like to position a room. I sat there the last several meetings. I generally, when I go sit in a room, I try and find the place where I'm going to be appreciated the most. Like, that's the most exciting place to sit or put my yoga mat. Like that's a place where I'm going to have the warmest reception. I try and feel out like where I'm going to have the best experience in the room and go there. So I sit next to this girl. I love how playful she is, and I'm happy to hold her meeting at the end of the hold her hand at the end of the meeting for a prayer. That's nice at the meetings where you hold hands, which is not most of them anymore, but this one it is. I thank her for saying hi to me last week. She had her back to me and looked like she might leave soon, and I just put out like telepathically, I'm like, "Hi, say hi to me before you leave. It's Jerry." And right after she finishes talking to someone, she turns around and walks right up to me and says hi, and then, goes off and does whatever she was going to do after that. So I know that if if people are receptive, you can telepathically communicate with people. And what will happen is they'll think of you. So if you're in a room with someone and you think their name, you aim your energy at them really loud, if they're receptive and not totally cut off from their heart, and, totally in their own head and their own stories, they'll think of you, which then will prompt them to interact with you. And people do that to me often enough too. But sometimes they do it to me and then I swear they do it to me negatively. Like, ooh, I don't want him to talk to me. So sometimes I feel that and I go talk to them anyway. Other times, sometimes maybe they do want me to notice them and I don't. So I'm trying to work on, getting the signals right with other people. So during this AA meeting, people are sharing about going to their doctor to get medication in early sobriety. And I personally have stayed away from medication because I've seen so many people become just more sick and addicted by taking medication. Like the problem with medication is often at first it does provide some immediate relief, but the downside of that is it's like for me drinking alcohol, same thing. Like sure, you feel like crap, you take a drink, your mood immediately changes. But did your life actually get better? No. Do you have all the same issues you had before? Yes. And now you've got an additional issue. It's that, well, now you've taken a drink. Now there's that to deal with also. So for me, there's nothing a drink will make better. And to me, I don't see anything, in most cases that medication will make better either. Sure, there may be occasionally for something, but to me, in most cases, medication is just like alcohol. It's like, sure, it'll take the edge off, but by taking the edge off, then you're able to tolerate things. Like back when I drank, I was able to tolerate so much crap in my life that when I get sober, it's like, I'm not tolerating this crap anymore. I'm not watching all these, movies online. I'm not listening to this music anymore. I'm not going to act this way. I'm not going to get angry and ragey. I'm not going to put up with my wife acting this way anymore. Like, that's what's hard about getting sober, but at the same time, like, you need to do that. So I used to be militantly against medication, though, and I felt that, somebody shared that their sponsor said they weren't really sober if they're taking medication, then they drank after that. And I used to feel like that, too. Like, if you're on medication, you're just substituting alcohol for something else. And I've softened up a bit on that because I've seen that, yes, sometimes people are able to take medication, and I'm talking like psychiatric medications, mind-altering, mood-altering medications. I'm not, and a lot of other meds people take seem to be unnecessary and part of the problem even to me. At the same time, though, yes, there are instances I've taken, I've been sick before and I've taken antibiotics and I felt better, but I think I would have got better without taking the antibiotics. And I think in the long term, the antibiotics destroyed my gut health for a while and screwed my body up further. Like in most cases, I think I would have been better off in life never having taken any medication, never having got any shots. I think I would have. That said, I got all the required shots, some not required ones, and I'm not planning to ever get any more, and I'm planning, to avoid going to the doctor and getting any medication for the rest of my life if I can help it. So I've seen both sides of things. I have seen, though, I've loosened up a bit after seeing some people suddenly stop their medication, then they do go crazy. And that's why it's such a trap, is you start taking this stuff, but then if you suddenly stop it, you're right back where you were before, and sometimes worse. Just like getting sober, you suddenly stop drinking. It's like you're just as aggravated as you were before you got sober, and then some. So I've also seen people who take medication for a while and it helps them transition, and then they get off of it, and that can work well. So I've got a bit more of an open mind now. Some meetings I don't feel like I really need to share, but in this meeting I do share it. I'm like, look, there are many alternatives. If you're feeling depressed, sad, angry, and confused, there are a lot of things you can do besides take drugs. Now, a lot of people in meetings seem to be pushing taking drugs all the time and pushing because they want to rationalize and feel better about their own behavior. But I'm like, there are other options. I found massage, yoga, hypnotherapy, breath work, deep conversations, especially like where you are confessing, all the worst parts about yourself, like a confession with a priest, you might think of it, but you can do that with anybody who's receptive. A strong romantic relationship and reading inspirational books. Like, to me, these have completely done the job in transforming my mind and body. They made all medications unnecessary for me. And yes, I suffered a bit more pain, depression, anxiety, and sadness the first few years sober without meds. Absolutely. I could have had an easier, gentler experience with meds. But I don't think I would have gotten where I am today if I had taken that easier, take the edge off mentality. There's a very good chance I'd still be on medications and I would have not made nearly as much progress and learning and growth in my life. And I probably wouldn't be as healthy overall either. And I think I'd be at much greater risk of relapsing or getting into a drug addiction if I was still taking meds today, which I never did. But if I had went down that route instead, in fact, when I was 5 years sober, I was really frustrated and emotionally unstable. And one of the people I trusted most that was like a sponsor to me told me I should go to a psychiatrist and get medicated. And I said, F you, I'm not doing that. Like, that to me was just obviously not the right long-term solution. I had no doubt in the short term, sure, they'll go give me a drug and I'll feel better after I come home. But I'm not trying to just take the edge off. I'm trying to make real change and have control of my life. And to me, taking meds is one of the things that can, it seems like it gives you control by taking the edge off. But at what cost? To me, from the outside, the people that are taking meds are putting up with stuff in their life most of the time that I find absolutely unacceptable. Like completely dysfunctional marriage, crappy work environment. And you can get away with that taking meds or drinking, but you stop taking those meds or, you're going to be depressed and angry and sad because from my point of view, your life needs to change. Your life does suck. Maybe not all of it, but you've got some pain point in your life that needs to be handled and not shoved under the surface. So I'm very happy I avoided getting stuck in that trap. And I know this sounds harsh to some people, but I personally don't think, people that are drinking or on drugs are operating at their full capacity as a human being. I have an analogy I heard from one of the spiritual books, like some guy went to India for his spiritual journey and he brought all these drugs and the spiritual master said, give me those. And the spiritual master took all of them that the guy had planned for this whole month-long trip. And the guy's like, what am I going to do now? How can you handle all that? And the guy said, if you're trying to go to Detroit, you don't need to take a bus if you're already there. It's like if you're already in a place of enlightenment, of spiritual, God realization, you don't need drugs or other stuff to get you there. So I think it's best to, if you can make the journey to get there and stay there, then you don't need stuff. You don't need alcohol to be happy, to relax. You can get to happy and relaxed on your own. And if you are happy and relaxed, alcohol and drugs won't make it better, at least overall. So this was what I was thinking about a lot on Sunday night. And I encouraged people, if they wanted some more options, to come up and talk to me. Not one person came up and talked to me. Most people would rather just keep doing what they're doing. They'd rather keep taking their meds and go home to their crappy marriage and work their crappy job and complain about their life and then go to the doctor for more meds. If they want to do that, I'm here to help them if they'd like to change, but it's not up to me to make people change. I'm grateful for occasionally somebody, y'all reach out to me online a lot. But in person, it's like the opposite. Most people do not reach out to me, do not want what I've got to offer. They don't want real power, and which requires full responsibility too. So, it's laughingly predictable how nobody comes up to me. Nobody wants to get off their medication. Nobody wants to fix their life up. Let's just keep everything the same, and whatever he's talking about, who knows what's going on with him. So after the meeting, I visit my mom. And then I talked to Laura about, where I'd like to spend more time with the family and be more understanding without withdrawing to my work. And then I walk the dog and get an idea, listening to a girl on YouTube talk about her changes. I did the last live stream on this channel about that exact topic, so I copied that. And then, I love like all the detail I remembered on this particular day, because normally, if I did this diary entry the next day, I wouldn't remember that. Monday, wow, is it Thursday? Bro, I thought these streams were gonna take like an hour. But I guess we better speed this up because it's amazing. Holy crap, how do I write so much? Well, anyway, we got this much more to go through. So this is, I think this is a much better format than doing a bunch of shorter videos, because like if you start listening to me talk about my life, it's easier for you to keep doing that unless it's really obnoxious. So it's better to just give more, and I personally would rather listen to one long format like my whole week instead of listening to a bunch of shorter formats. It's just too much clicking. Too much clicking. So on Monday, I got a great night of sleep, even though I went to bed at midnight, which is usually late. I got up at like a little after 7, so I got 7 on one of the shortest nights of sleep I've had, at least in terms of time in bed. I got over 7 hours of sleep. So I'm serious about my sleep. Kids are off to school, and I'm excited to do my first long live stream. So I book a yoga class, and I look forward to a power flow. There's a girl I've known there for a while that's been friendly, and we've talked a bit before and after class a bunch of times. Although, I probably saw her 3 to 6 months before I even said hi to her once. Because at that point, I was, I'd got a crush on a girl at yoga, and I was being very like standoffish. I'm not going to be friendly. Just going to go do my yoga. I'll talk with the dudes, and, I'm going to keep my distance otherwise, though. But she was very happy when I finally talked to her. So now I was like, I'm thinking during the yoga flow, I'm like, should I get to know her better? Even though I've seen her a bunch of times, I don't know hardly anything about her except that, we both seem to be happily married. I'm definitely happily married. She seems to be, and some other basic details about like what her husband does for work and stuff. So I go off on a whole tangent during class, thinking about how it's actually easier to know someone less in many situations. Like it's actually easier to not know somebody. It's easier to just be friendly and to get along and not have an issue with a stranger. Except some of y'all, when you're driving, you got to get those middle fingers up. You don't even know that person. Like, you don't even know them enough to be that upset about them. But, if you get to know each other better, it can be such a gift and a blessing, but it can be kind of dangerous. Like with, if I talk to this girl, the ideal scenario is, being friends and, she helps me grow and learn and expand my idea of life, and I do the same for her. And, it's a friend, and that's the ideal scenario. Now, what happens if we don't like each other and I am in the spot where I'm like with this family member where I know them so well that I don't want to be around them anymore? What if I get to know her better and I'm like, gross, I need to not go to the same yoga class. Now I have to change up my schedule. This has happened with people before in AA meetings. It's happened with people before online. Also, what happens if we like each other too much? Like happened earlier, or in 2023. Like what happens if I get to know somebody, I get to like them way too much? That's a problem too. So I'm like, man, if this goes poorly, I could suffer. It's safer to just say hi, say bye, and not have anything else to it. But y'all know I'm not the kind of person that's here to live a safe life and just try and survive. That's not how I'm rolling. So after class, I ask her, if she'd like to talk a bit more so we could kind of move beyond the superficial. I didn't say that, but that was communicated. She's like, sure, you want to have juice after class on Friday? There's a juice studio right next door, a juice place. I'm like, sure, great. I added it to my calendar, and then it's got, juice with her in my calendar. I'm like, well, I guess I need to mention this to my wife now. Is, having lunch with a girl I haven't mentioned, or that she doesn't know, that's popped up in the calendar Friday morning. All right. So I end up talking to a yoga instructor too on the way out, and I tell her I'd love to watch her life story on YouTube, and she thinks about it. I'm like, I would love for everybody to have a YouTube channel where they just share their life story. Like, to me, there's lots of people I would watch a video like this. Like where I would watch a video where you go through and tell me your life story. There's so many of you where I would watch that. What I don't, what a lot of the content people create is so meaningless. Now you got to put some title on it to get people in the door, but I really want to hear about people's everyday lives and thoughts. I don't want to hear all this preaching all the time, but unfortunately that's what a lot of people watch. And, even on my crypto channel, it's like there's a lot of just talking about how great ICP is, but and then I do a video that's real like this, and how many people are watching this? Like nobody. Like, anyway, I want more people to do real, raw, authentic life stories and diaries and vlogs. So maybe I just need to find some more vloggers to watch myself. Maybe I've been into the preachy stuff myself. So I tell Laura that I'm planning to meet a girl from Yoga for Juice. Yeah, I'm not playing video games anymore. It's such, if I had 30 hours a day, I might play video games, 30 hours awake a day. But with like 16 hours awake a day, there's just not enough time to play video games. I'd rather play tennis. So I remember from the Seth books too. Thank you. I appreciate Saucy. I appreciate you chatting on Twitch. So with me, I love getting to know people and being friendly. It feels wrong to me to not be constantly trying to get to know people better. There's a quote I read from the Seth books that love is naturally explorative, that you want to get to know the people you love, whether it's a lover, a family, a friend, acquaintance. Like to me, the opposite of love, although yes, love has no true opposite, it's like this family member that doesn't seem to want to get to know anything about me or my life, that seems to want to, have nothing to do with exploring my life or sharing their life with me. Like to me, that's the opposite of love. That even hate is not truly the opposite of love, because even with hate, you're at least paying attention to somebody else. To me, it's apathy. It's disinterest, disconnection, being withdrawn. Like that to me is the opposite of love. Having no concern, like even, people are so up in arms about things like hate speech. To me, hate speech is not the worst thing in the world. Hey, to me, what's worse than hate speech is being ignored. That there's people starving all over the planet that are being ignored. That people can't even be bothered to think about them or to talk about them. Or that people would rather engage in a bunch of hate speech and taking each other down and complaining about somebody else's hate speech and being offended than to realize there's like 1 billion people or so that don't even have indoor plumbing on this planet. And we collectively easily have the ability to fix that. Like to me, that's the true opposite of love is lack of consideration. To me, love is explorative and curious. You want to get to know your loved ones better. And I want to get to know everybody better. I mean, occasionally there's people there was a guy at a meeting I met recently, and I'm like, this guy just needs to get away from me and, stop aggravating me. But even that triggered my curiosity. I'm like, why does this guy provoke this kind of reaction? He doesn't seem like on the surface there's any reason for that. So even there, I wanted to talk to him more to see if I could figure out why I didn't like him. So I go home and I'm eating sweet potatoes from the garden, along with some homemade granola Laura made last week. I bite my lip again. I wonder why that happens. Like I'm chewing and I bite like hard enough to make a canker sore. But I also wonder sometimes why it doesn't turn into a sore. Like most of the time it doesn't. And today it doesn't. And, several days later, I'm really glad it doesn't. But it's like, why does, it seems if I eat spicy foods and get like acid or spicy foods in a canker sore, then it festers. And I have to, it's like, why do I eat spicy foods anyway, instead of letting the canker sore down? Or why do my teeth sometimes, it doesn't feel random. When I suddenly chomp into the side of my lip, it feels intentional. It doesn't feel random. So we're still on Monday. I get all set up for my live stream and go live for 4 hours on Twitch and split it onto 2 different YouTube channels. First, see how little there is about YouTube in here? I know my title might, this is my actual life though. I'm a full-time crypto YouTuber, but there's not much YouTube in my life. So I do live for 2 hours on my crypto channel to talk ICP. And I've stopped doing live streams a lot of times because I'm sensitive. I get my feelings hurt. Or I get really, really armored up and hard and withdrawn, which is not good either. So I like to be really open-hearted and passionate and enthusiastic, but then, the trolls, the haters, and negative attention seekers, That ruins the experience for me. So this time I got more moderators on board, and we're shutting all those people up. Lisa, nice to see you. Been live for 2 hours now, but 45 minutes into a diary stream for the Experience channel. The crypto stream wrapped up over an hour ago, or about an hour ago. So I tell Laura this, and she's like, well, that sounds a lot like Big Brother, which is ironic given my emphasis on free speech and decentralization. But that said, it's not like I'm the president or something, and yeah, if I'm the president, maybe I'm too big to even read my YouTube comments, and sure, everybody can have their way there. But, there's a fine line between free speech and stopping the near constant harassment that occurs on like YouTube live streams. Not like right now, there's nobody harassing me on my live stream right now. There's Saucy Vix, Lisa Ladybug, Kate, and Yanmar. They're literally 4 people who've been the only ones to comment on this 45-minute live stream, which is fine because this is a passion live stream. This is a passion project for me doing this channel. This is a channel that's good doing these diaries and looking at my life and reflecting on this and sharing this stuff. This is good for me. I just want to do it. Now, on my crypto channel, that's work. And I don't want to be hollered at from people on the street essentially constantly. So there's a delicate balance between, yeah, when you're smaller, you're not going to have all that harassment, but you start to get an audience. And the first way you'll know you've got an audience is when you constantly get harassed and constantly have people talking junk. I've spent thousands of hours live streaming with little or no moderation only to get my feelings hurt every day. And even then I get addicted to feeling bad. But then, because of that, I've constantly sabotaged what I was doing all the time too. And that sucks because I work so hard to build something like my Facebook gaming page. And then I get so spun out and aggravated about it that I eventually get so wild on it that I get demonetized. But then part of me is relieved that now I don't have to keep showing up and listening to these jerks every day. But then the other part of me is like, why'd I spend all this time just to tear something all down? And it didn't have to go that way. But like if I hadn't been having my feelings hurt every day and being aggravated and, a lot of the times when I've got destructive as a creator, it's been, I have my feelings hurt a lot right beforehand. And I think a natural desire when somebody hurts our feelings a lot, and we don't feel it, we stack it up, we'll have thoughts of getting back at them however we could hurt them the most. And I've had that experience with this family member. Like they've hurt me so much. And recently I finally cried and released all the feelings, but I used to have all these thoughts of how I could get back at them for hurting me, for being rude to me, for ignoring me, for treating me worse than they treat most everybody else. It's like, well, on my live streams, I can easily have content moderators stop all that. With this family member, just need to stay away from them. Then my son is home from school at about 3. So I wrap up, my 13 hours of Experience YouTube stream, help him find batteries for his train. I cook a vegan pizza, and I will not eat again after this. So this is about 4 p.m. while I'm writing this. I stop eating most days around 3 or 4 p.m. because that seems to work best. My body seems to like a good 14, 15 hours where I'm not eating because it takes hours and hours to digest your food. So if I take about 14 plus hours where I don't eat, then my body has a good 6-7 hours of what you'd call intermittent fasting, where the digestive system is mostly empty, the stomach's empty, even the intestines, are slow or not doing hardly anything. My digestive system then has time to rest every day. And it seems the best time to do that is when I'm sleeping, because sleep is a time for ideally as much of the body should rest as possible. What I've noticed the worst thing I've done with my eating is to eat at night. That seems to both put on fat and disrupt my sleeping. Most of the people I see who are overweight eat at night, or they eat after 5 p.m. and often big meals. Like the people I've seen that are the most overweight tend to have huge meals at night, and they often do not eat properly during the day, which screws their body up in every way you could screw it up. Like to me, I eat I try and get in 500 calories as soon as I get up, and then I eat again and again and again sometimes, but then cut it off at 4 or 5. So my body has energy all day And then at night, my digestive system can rest and I don't put on fat, which is awesome. So I get my new Apple AirPods Pro in the mail a day early, which is awesome. And I'm amazed how well the noise canceling and transparency features work. I just thought everyone wearing them was unsafe, which I talked about a little bit before. So and then I go to my AA meeting. I walk with the new AirPods. My sponsor sounds like he's in my head while he's talking to me. He says my audio is much clearer also. And I can easily hear cars better through having both of these in than I could through the one single Bluetooth. It's awesome. I walked through the shopping center on the way to this meeting, which is a 15-minute walk from my house, and I'm amazed how I don't see anyone I know. Like, this is my neighborhood. I go to this Publix. Actually, I guess I haven't been in this Publix in a little while. Like, there's so many people I've met and through AA, through yoga, and it's just in my neighborhood walking dogs. Like, how do I see so few people I know? Like, it's just crazy how a few thousand, I guess maybe there's a few thousand people right around where I live in my neighborhood, and that's enough where I don't, I see 400 people I don't know during the week, and I see those same 400 people again, and I still don't know them. But I love to get to know more people. At the meeting, I see a girl in her 20s I've known since before she got sober. She used to come to meetings out of the influence, and she's got a couple of years now. I don't see her that much, and I'm really surprised to see her at this meeting today. So I, of course, sit down right next to her, and yeah, the meeting near my house doesn't usually even have attractive girls or not even a woman at all. And, there's a guy that sometimes right now seems to scare the women away and harass them. There was a guy like that in my home group when I got sober, and we kicked him out, and then he died after he got hit by a car, and that was actually my first sponsor. So that's a little Easter egg there. So the girl that I'm talking about, that I talked about from last night's also there, and I'm happy they both open up and share during the meeting. I feel it's really, new people in AA meetings often don't want to share, but I think it's often really important for new people to share. I remember when I was new, it felt really important for me to share. Now that I'm 10 years sober, it doesn't feel as important for me to share. Like, my day is not going to be made or broken based on whether I share that I want to drink or not in a meeting, because, that doesn't happen almost ever now. Like, my days are consistently pretty easy and smooth, but when I was new, I had some rough, volatile days. And, when you share at a meeting, it helps people connect with you and get to know you and to see you. So I love when people that are new share, although, you get people that are drunk sometimes that blather on, and that actually helps you remember how awful you actually look when drinking, which, the mind, when it pitches how great drinking is, that's the antidote, is remembering, how disgusting you really look when you're all messed up on alcohol or something, some other substance. So I share in the meeting. I often share in meetings, but I try not to share if I think somebody else would share and it'd be better if I didn't, which I used to always share when I was new. And in this meeting, I share about how much self-pity I felt when my dad passed, and how I was able to transform, that self-pity, to get out of that self-pity, because, everybody's parents are going to pass. It's just a normal part of my life. And, being sober was very difficult in the first few months, and it's never been that hard since then. And one of the guys there who was the same one to tell me I ought to get on meds and go to the psychiatrist, and who helped me make amends with my mom, he's at the meeting, and he shares some great stories I haven't heard before, which it's amazing to know somebody so long, and, they have all these great stories they've never even told you, even though you've talked to them so much, which to me is like, love is naturally curious. You want to get to know people's stories and see how they act in different environments. And, to me, the being withdrawn and not caring about people, that's the opposite of love. Hate is like frustrated love. Whereas being withdrawn, that's, maybe you can argue that's why it's all love. There really is no opposite. Even being withdrawn is, you could argue, is frustrated love. So AA meetings like this are usually the most interesting part of my day. Like, AA meetings have also ruined fake human society for me. Fake being like people that are just in their heads and just are good all the time and don't tell you what's really going on, that are keeping secrets, that are, doing things that would disgust you behind your back, that are nice to your face and talk junk about you as soon as you walk away. Like, AA's ruined me for small talk. AA's ruined me for, kind of the people like this family member that just want to keep things surface all the time and be fake charming and never, and then keep private lives and keep secrets and not let people really get close and see them. Like that's, I used to operate a lot like that, but, going to AA has really opened me up into living a heart-centered life. And I think that's one of the most important things we can do on this planet. And it helps everybody else. The more of us are living heart-centered lives, that's what we need to truly transform the world. And I personally don't want to even hang out with people that are stuck like in their head that are, you can feel when you're talking to them, the emotions are disconnected or withdrawn or suppressed. And for me, I also talked about in my share how I hate that personality change people go through when drinking, because a lot of people are stuck in their head and they're having a hard time living a heart-centered life like I used to be. What I would do is drink alcohol, and that sometimes would bring out more of a heart-centered, it would get me a bit out of my head, but other times it turned me into a total animal with, in the worst way, like total demon, like no heart, absolutely numb. So, to some people that have that first drink and are suddenly all friendly and talking constantly, it's fraudulent. Does it work in the short term? Yes. But what happens when you built this relationship with somebody based on drinking, but then sober, you're just totally cold with them? That's horrible. It's like I would have rather just found someone who could be authentic with me instead of having to deal with this person that when they drink, they're a totally different personality. Yuck. And that's how I used to be. So I shared like in specific, like there was this yoga instructor at one of the events. I generally avoid going to anything where drinking is there because I hate being around people that need a beer to loosen up, that have, and then when they have a beer, they're this different person. And it's even confusing me now. Like I went to this yoga event thinking and hoping there wouldn't be alcohol. And, from their point of view, someone thinks they're being fun and really helping get this party started by bringing the alcohol. And from my point of view, they just ruined it. And then I'm talking to one of the yoga instructors who's normally very cold with me, very similar to this family member, their vibe. Like surface level now, charming, but cold. This yoga instructor starts talking all kinds of stuff and opening up and sharing their life with me, and they're very chatty. And I'm like confused. I'm like, why are they acting like this with me now when they normally are so cold? And then I realize they're drinking. They've had a couple of drinks, and now their mask is slipped down. And now they're opening up, but it's fraudulent because as soon as I see them sober again, they're going to go right back to being cold like this conversation never happened. And that's exactly what happens. I'm back and I generally don't go to their yoga classes either, because that's exactly what happens. They're back in the studio, cold, can't even be bothered to like say hi to me, no reaction when I do say hi or whatever. And it's like, so that whole conversation I had after you had 2 beers was just alcohol. Like that's gross. Like if you can't genuinely have a conversation, with somebody without needing it to be filled by alcohol, the thing to do would be to work on that and to practice getting better at that sober, not to just take a drink and blather all over people. And then the next day you're embarrassed and now you don't want to talk to anybody again. Like that's nasty. So, and that's what I used to do. And that's the world I used to live in. So after the meeting, I get some hugs, feel very happy walking home, catching up with everybody. I called my brother who's been on a 2-week cruise. And I'm really glad. I've always maintained a close relationship with my brother, except when I didn't talk to him for a few months this year, because he kept telling me that I should not, give mom the silent withdrawn treatment where I wasn't talking to her. And well, I got tired of him telling me that. And then when I called her, then I called him and said I would like to resume our relationship. And, I'm sorry for not talking to you for that time. At the same time, we need to have some new boundaries though. So, now my relationship feels the best with my mom and with my brother than it has, ever, even since childhood. And I enjoy hearing my brother's stories from his cruise. and through my new AirPods, which is, it's awesome. Like the AirPods are so good, I can, I should be sponsored by them in this video, but I can hear his daughter in the background on him, which is awesome. God, this day really goes on, doesn't it? Well, this is about it here. So I wash all the dishes on, some of the details I've went in here too are repeatable details. So I wash up all the dishes in the kitchen. I'm happy to do the dishes because, this is part of the service work I do for the family. And I like how I wash the dishes better than how anyone else does it. I hate having dishes that have oil and food on them when they're supposed to be clean. I hand wash the dishes and then run the ones that can go through the dishwasher on top of washing them by hand. So my dishes are consistently the cleanest enough to meet my own standards. And I also hate the sink getting overfilled because the dishes piling up is so inefficient. Then you get some sauce you had and put that on top of the dishes. It washes and gets oil all over everything. It's gross. It's wasteful. So the inefficiency bothers me. It's very easy when you've got a small sink of dishes to just wash all of them, put them in a dishwasher, load the dishwasher up, and then wash all of it. So easy. So that's my dishes rant. Laura reads Harry Potter 5, where Snape's giving Harry the occlumency lessons. I have great memories of listening to this book with my mom 22 years ago when our relationship was at its worst. I had years as a teenager. I barely talked to my mother. I couldn't stand her. And I was mad at her for, losing control of herself, for causing, so many arguments, so much fighting, and, then being sick all the time. It's like she was either being nasty or she was sick. It's like there were years where my mom, it was hard to even get any good times with her. So 22 years ago, we repaired that a bit when she got me an internship to go to work with her, and we had some quality time together in the car. And I told the kids, I think they're having a really nice childhood, which I guess is still to be determined. Because at this point in my childhood, when I was 9, this stuff hadn't happened with my mom yet. We had a great relationship. So I say goodnight to the kids and try listening to a Brandon Sanderson book. My friend from college, TK, loves Brandon Sanderson's books. I tried listening to Mistborn and decided not to go further. Laura says I haven't listened to fantasy books in years, which is accurate, but I used to mostly read fiction before I got sober in AA. Thinking a good fantasy book feels just right for me now. TK sends me a guide to Brandon's book, and I noticed that Elantris is available for free on my Audible membership, so I dive in. Take my dog Melanie on a longer walk tonight, which is like an hour, and roll through the first 2 chapters plus the preface and the foreword at double speed. Then Laura's ready to go to bed early tonight, so I shower and say goodnight before I go see my mom. My mom has a few stories tonight she's never told me before. Like, Lisa, thanks for sharing you had the same relationship with your mom. How did your relationship end up with your mom? So I'm very grateful, that to me, love is explorative. Like, even though I've known my mother for so long, I want to hear more of my mom's stories that I haven't heard before. And she tells me a few, from when she was in the army during our time in Japan from 86 to 90. And I'm glad that even though my mom feels pretty sick, she can still have a great conversation with me. Now, I've asked her, when I didn't talk to her for a few months this year and I came back to talking to her, I said, one thing we need to change, stop talking to me about your health problems unless you want me to fix them for you. If you're sick, keep that to yourself. I don't need to hear about it. From my point of view, if you don't do anything to make yourself healthier that I think will make you healthier, then don't tell me about how sick you are. Be sick. That's fine. That's up to you. If you're going to tell me how sick you are, I'm going to tell you what you can do to fix it. And if you don't want to hear it, then don't talk about it. So my mom has been doing great the last few months, like minimizing talking about her health problems. Before that, all she'd talk about is her health problems and going to the doctor. Health problems, going to the doctor. Do you want any suggestions? No. I have my health problems, I'm going to the doctor. And complain about the doctor, back to the health problems. I'm at the doctor, and they're not fixing it. And it's like, that boundary with my mother is like, don't talk about your health problems. It's not that I don't care. I do care a lot. I care so much that I want to help you be well. But if you don't think I can help you be well and you're not interested in the suggestions I have based on being the healthiest I've ever been before myself, if you think only your doctor knows, then you talk to your health problems with your doctor and not me, because I'm not your doctor. And if you think the doctor's the only one that can help you, then talk to them about it, not me. So that's worked really well with my mother. I've really been in the zone the last few months with my mom. And I was telling my brother when we went to the airbase with my mom a week ago from this day that I was writing this, I felt so much joy with my mom all day. My empathy really works well when I'm with someone who's very happy to be with me because it creates a positive reinforcement loop. So if you're very happy to be with me and I feel how happy you are to be with me, it creates this positive reinforcement loop where we just keep feeling better and better together. Now, that has the opposite effect with somebody where they don't like being around me, and then I feel that, so then I don't like being around them. So, and this can be with the same person at different times, but it is important for me to, some people can tolerate being around somebody else that's miserable and it doesn't affect them that much. It affects me. So I'm very careful about who I hang out with. So I'm loving typing these diaries out and doing this one long live stream like this. To me, this is a much nicer format and to engage with the community. Instead of doing a little 10-minute vlog every day, this longer format to me is really nice. So then you can just take my entire weekend. I can look back on my whole week. And yes, a year from now, if I want to catch up on this week, it'd take me 30 minutes. I'd have to listen to 50 to 100 minutes a year. But when I first did my diary videos, they were kind of superficial, 3 minutes long. Do you really care of, which yoga? They're too superficial. Like, I want some more depth to my life. Instead of like telling you how you should live your life, like to me, the best way I can teach is to tell you how I'm living my life like this. So maybe I'll do more, even doing a week. Like I've only went through a couple of days here, maybe depending on how long the diaries get. I don't want them to go too far over an hour. So maybe we'll need to do twice a week live streams with the diaries instead of doing these, here's what you should do to live your life. Like, hey, here's how I'm living my life. Like to me, that's the most authentic. So it looks like we've still got we got a couple more days of material, so I'll do these and wrap this one up. So Lisa says, you had the same relationship with my mom, 7 years at the end of discovering of each other and apologizing. She passed in peace and I let her go with peace. She was sober 10 years and took sobriety with her. I'm really happy to hear that, Lisa. And that's what I love doing these like live streams too. If I'm going to do a live stream, it shouldn't be something 10, 20 minutes. It should be a longer format live stream. And then there's time for you to get on and you to share your experience with me on Twitch and on YouTube. Lisa's chatting on Twitch. And all right, so let's cover these last couple of days and then we'll wrap this up. And I guess I like too that if it's easier for me to do this one live stream than to do all the videos. So December 17th, Tuesday, which was 2 days ago from now. I'm practicing tennis again today with Jeff. We just hit starting at 8:30 at the Racket Club, which is walking distance from my house. And we go until 10:30. Jeff was born around 30 years before me, and I intend to still be playing tennis like him in 2054. Today we play a game where you hit 3 balls back and forth, and then after that you play for a point until someone reaches 11. I win both games, and I have more fun than just hitting back and forth like we've done most of the time before. Today I'm enjoying hitting with Jeff more than before. I was frustrated how bad my shots were the previous times, but today the shots are a bit improved and I really want to play more tennis. I'm wondering if I offer $20 a set to play me, if I can get some people that are much better off in tennis to beat me repeatedly until I improve. Maybe I'll start putting these on like, I wonder if these would work as a post on X or Twitter too. Maybe I could try that. And then just read them all at once on my live streams. So my current challenge at the Racket Club, where I play tennis, is that most people who could beat me most games don't want to play me. And then almost everyone I've played with, I can easily beat, or they only play doubles. So maybe there's a teenager, for example, that could like whip up on me who'd appreciate making like $60 in a couple hours of tennis. I'm happy to play men or women of any skill at or above me. I did some coaching, but that's $80 an hour, and I'd rather play $20 a set to play real games. Maybe I can do some drills with the coaches too. I want to learn how to play tennis, but so far, I don't want to do a coaching where somebody is just telling me the whole time how to hold my racket. And, to me, I should be watching that stuff on YouTube. And if you got Oh, I didn't change the kind of stream I did, but on that I don't know about that. I have no idea about that. So anything I can just watch on YouTube to show me how to hit a ball, it's like I want to do something in person. Like I want to work on hitting. I want to work on, maybe a coach could take me through a series of drills, but I don't want to talk about my form. I want to focus on actually hitting the ball and getting better at hitting the ball. So I'm wondering what to do now. If I can just pay somebody, a regular person, to beat me. It's like if I'm going to get better at tennis, I need people that are better than me to stoop down to my level and play with me. And I'm willing to play with some people that I'm better than them and I can beat them consistently. But, that's almost more like giving back at this point. Like I'd rather focus on getting better now and then kind of maintain my level of play by playing with people that aren't as good as me in the future. Does that make sense? Like I've got so much room for improvement. I'm obsessed with how much better can I get at tennis. I'm not content to just play where I'm at indefinitely. All right, so after I play tennis with Jeff, my AA meeting's 11. I come home about 10:30. I have some hummus and sweet potatoes for lunch. Hummus dipped with like Triscuits and like a carrot, vegetables. I'm there 5 minutes late to my meeting, which is earlier than I often arrive. I'm fine missing the readings and the pre-meeting rituals. That stuff's really helpful when you're new, but I've heard that stuff, thousands of times by now. I like missing it lots of times. So the topic today is about your higher power. And, to me, diary entries and talking about this stuff really matters in life. Like crypto videos and stuff, people watch those, but, a lot of them are just a waste of time trying to help people, that are insecure be more secure for another day. But when you get into stuff like talking about God, like some of this can really change your life. So I get called on today in the meeting, and this is a nice level of detail I wouldn't normally remember 2 days later. I get called on in the meeting, and that here's what I share. I say that I've heard a lot about God and higher powers in 10 years sober, which includes over 3,000 Alcoholics Anonymous meetings I've spent probably an average of an hour or so at. So I've put thousands of hours into Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And I've listened, God has been one of the main subjects people talk about. The most powerful idea I've ever heard when it comes to God is that I am God. Like that's who I really am. If you look at, my children, like in AA, and often it's like you're children of God. And yes, there's truth to that, but my children are going to grow up to be just like me. That there's really almost no difference between me and my children. So God has created us as a higher power, as a creator of the universe. We're all, whatever you think of as God, that's who you are too. And at the deepest level, that's who you've always been, who you always will be. Like even the idea of God itself is my creation that I created when I created this reality. Like this body is not God and should not be worshipped, but neither is any other body a God that should be worshipped. Now, some may have powers or be able to do things other people can't do, but we're all creating this reality that way. Each of us is the God of our own little reality. So as proof of that, I'll say that I'm here by choice and conscious creation. I'm doing what I'm doing right now because I chose to. Just like at this AA meeting, I said I'm at this meeting because I chose to be here. I'm on this live stream because I chose to be here. I'm in this reality because I chose to be here. And that to me is God creation. Everything that exists is my creation. Everything in my studio here that I've ordered as a full-time YouTuber, I bought that and I bought that. But some would say, well, Jerry, you didn't make that. You didn't put the pieces together. You're right. It came fully assembled. I manifested that fully assembled in the mail via Amazon. Now, there's probably someone who put that together somewhere, but unless I observe them, there's just the field of probability that somebody probably put that together somewhere. But right now it is here and it is whole, and I never saw it built. It came straight to me whole. So this whole reality is the same. Like I didn't see who built this camera. I didn't see like anything else happen outside of what's happened right around me, which is solid because I am observing it. But everything else outside of my direct observation is just a field of possibility. And I could go observe somebody making my keyboard, and I could observe it being shipped directly to me. But in a sense, I'd be creating that also. So, like, to me, the only idea that is indisputable is that I am God. Now, if you might argue, well, you're not God. Don't things happen to you? Like you got sick? Is that God? Would you choose to be sick? And I'd say, I'm choosing to have the exact experience I'm having. And the idea that God only wants these good experiences is ridiculous. That's just like, would you want to read Harry Potter with no Lord Voldemort? Would Harry Potter have anything interesting that happened if there was no Lord Voldemort? I mean, Lord Voldemort is essential to Harry Potter. And the suffering and all that makes the story. It's just a boring story of some kid going to magic school otherwise. That's why tragedies catch our attention, but ordinary joy, people get all upset when anything bad happens, like a shooting or something, but people are uninterested in all the places where there's not shootings and where everybody's operating and getting along together and being happy. It's not newsworthy. Like that's, once you understand that I am God, like everything in reality makes sense, ironically. Like for me, I remember being born. I remember picking my parents. I remember other lifetimes. And the only common thread through all that is that I am. I am not anything in particular, but all that's real is that I am. Whether I'm in this form or your form or the form of Jesus or the form of some so appearing God, or the form of some appearing servant, no matter what happens, I am. I am always. I was, I am, and I will be. So to me, that sounds pretty esoteric, but what I share in the AA meeting to wrap it up is like, the value of this in practical terms is personal responsibility. That's the opposite of how most alcoholics and a lot of people live. When you are God, there's no more being a victim. Everything happened to you because you created it. And that to me is why most of the world tries to convince you you're not God and you should put your head down and do what some God, whether it's a president or a dictator or a religious leader or some woke opinion virtue signaler tells you to do. It's like everybody all the time is trying to tell you what to do because you're not God. What's dangerous to all the entire setup of our reality is that you are God and you have the ability to change all of reality if you'd like. Now, some of you might argue, well, Jerry, I can't control what happens on this planet. Perhaps you can control if you observe it or not, though. So I've seen some people all fired up about, there's going to be a nuclear war and it's all going to end. I'm like, probably not. But if there is, I could get picked up by a spaceship beforehand and taken to some other nice, peaceful planet. And for me, there would be no nuclear war. There you go. Or if I get instantly annihilated and I go create a different body in a different location, what difference does it make? Do you see how powerful this idea is? And while it feels like sometimes I don't have all power, I mean, that's part of what makes it interesting. And you always have the chance to make a change right this second. Sometimes all of us just choose to endure suffering a long time before we choose to use prayer, intention setting, or remembering who we really are to make change. Now, in the moment, like a couple of days before this, I was up, for hours at night, breathing through these tiny little spots in my nose because my nose was stuffed up and I refused to mouth breathe, except for emergencies. So I'm, sitting there for an hour or two up in the middle of the night, taking these 30-second in, 30-second out breaths that felt like they're going through like a tiny thread through my nose. And it was a surprisingly long time before I said, please open my nose so I can go to sleep. I mean, I just sat there and breathed for like an hour before I set the intention of the prayer. I'm like, I would love to go to sleep right now. I would love to just create some sleep. I sat there and suffered for like an hour. And then almost right after I set the intention that I'll do anything to go back to sleep, I lay down, my nose opens up, I fall back asleep. I mean, there's so many situations like that in life where we just suffer literally because we won't ask for help. I see it in meetings all the time. Every meeting I go to, there's a few people there. I could end their suffering in various areas of their life. All they'd have to do would be come up and ask. They won't ask. All they'd have to do is come up and say, Jerry, I'm struggling in my marriage right now. What would you recommend? I'd leave that person. They're sick. They're sick physically and mentally. Leave them. Let them pass on. Leave them. You're subjecting yourself to this because you like to be miserable. Or other things like the lady who talked to me about her health. That I guess I'll discuss that in a minute. Did I already discuss that? It's been on so long. But it's like the lady who asked me, I helped her annihilate so much suffering in her life. That if she'd have kept going to the doctor and kept doing the treatments and the treatments kept making her sick. There's things I could tell you that could annihilate thousands of hours of suffering in your life. Most people are not interested in hearing those things. I'm interested in hearing anything related to annihilating all of the debt I have in my life. Tell me about that. It looks like just doing what I'm doing right now will get me there. But sometimes I'm closed-minded. I've been very closed-minded with my finances. Like, I'm just going to do this myself. But I'm very interested. I'm going to see who I can ask to eliminate the rest of my financial suffering. So on my way home from the meeting, I choose to do another crypto stream, which I thought I'd take the day off. But I want to go back into it today. I love all the attention, and connecting with people directly on YouTube and Twitch. And I'm excited to do these instead of a video. I'm planning to do crypto for an hour on Tuesday and switch to music, but I end up going for 2 hours on crypto until the kids come home. And then I'm thinking I'll do the music tomorrow. And I'm also thinking I need a 1 hour limit on the crypto streams. Now, these diary streams could go a bit longer, but maybe I need to do 2 of them a week instead of 1 2 hour one. But we'll see. Maybe when it gets to a certain word length in the diaries, but there is a point where the long format gets to be so long that it's inefficient. So we're almost done with this. So today when my kids come home, they're asking about my relationship difficulties with the family member since we haven't talked about it yet. I tell them I'd love to have a great relationship with this family member, but I refuse to be around them until they can have a heart-centered, authentic connection with me. I'm not going to be hurt by their rudeness, inauthenticity, and disconnected state of being anymore. For example, this family member says they don't have a problem with me to my face, but their actions indicate the exact opposite. They have no explanation, like they literally say they don't know, for why they never engage me in conversation, why they walk off when I start talking to them, why they ignore me rather than say hi when entering my presence, and why they never express any curiosity about my life. They deny that my empathic readings of them have any accuracy despite every indication to the contrary, and they make it clear they have no interest in sharing their private life or anything meaningful with me in conversation. These are things they've said directly to me. In either directly or like this was the meaning of what they said indirectly. Now, maybe they'll have a spiritual awakening or change of heart one day. Until then, I'd rather not be around them for any reason. And I try to explain to kids that this is an issue with me and not with them. Nice. Thank you. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Pong, really appreciate it. And my daughter says this family member does not treat her like that. And my daughter's very happy with their relationship. My daughter says this family member always asks how she's doing and always engages her in conversation. I say I'm happy they have a good relationship. At the same time, this stark difference is the reason I won't be around them. Like, that's insane how this family member treats my daughter versus how they treat me. And I ask the kids, and then they say to my face that there's no problem with me. I ask the kids if they understand that they can, if they understand my situation and if they can please be polite about these personality differences without trying to hurt anyone's feelings. They say they can do that because previously they did cause some hurt feelings when I directly vented to them and they repeated it in front of the entire family. So after having that conversation with the kids, I'm again wondering what to do with the meme coin JBBJ. And I was thinking about that yesterday a bunch too. And what's crazy is, and this is so good for me to see this diary entry. So 2 days ago, I said the final answer is that I'm not interested in putting anything into it again because I have no control over it. It's a community coin and it'll complicate my life if I invest into it. But then to yesterday, so this diary entry was 2 days ago. Yesterday, I spent at least an hour thinking about it and exploring whether I really do have control over it again. This is why it's great to read my own diary entries back. So then I take Jack to his hip hop dance class. He enjoys listening to my instrumental dance music on the way to his hip hop. And Madeline goes to my mom's house while Laura goes to the gym. It's my turn for bedtime tonight. I eat a nice homegrown salad with homemade dressing for lunch and a few Hershey's Kisses with cookies and cream, and I wrap my eating up at like 4. After Jack's class, I'm in a weird mood. I'm kind of calm but irritable at the same time. Weird combo, which reminds me of Nikolai and Zombies. He's like weird and smelly. Weird combo. We hang out. I go over to my mom's house with the kids afterwards and turn down chocolate and Luigi's Ice. I have some tomorrow, which reminds me I need to grab some more chocolate from my mom's house because I'm out. I put the kids to bed and I bribe them with $5 each to get in bed by 8:20. It's much easier than nagging them or, trying to threaten them and stuff. I'm like, just $5, get your butts in bed by 8:20. And I'll fine you if you're not in bed by 5:20. So we'll use both carrot and stick approach. And then I read my open chat messages, and I love how the open AirPods go between the iPad and the iPhone because I use my iPad while the kids are falling asleep and I sit in there with them. Laura had a nice Pilates class and I listened to some comedy while walking the dog along with the DAI manifesto. Being in on ICP this early is amazing. I watch a streamer I haven't seen in months after downloading the Twitch on my phone again and signing back up for the ad-free turbo. I hate watching ads and I'll pay whatever it takes to avoid them. This girl's name is Helena Meyer. The pronunciation I think it is versus how it looks is different. She's happy to see me again. I watch her new video called The Huntsman. It's pretty wild. It started with a disclaimer about graphic images, which I thought was silly until I watched the video. I'm like, geez. So a really well done video though. Like she's, she has everything that would look on the surface like to be a, major like pop sensation. When like you watch her video, it's like this is a pro level video, pro level music. But the only issue though is it sounds like everything else too. I like to make music that doesn't sound like everything else. All right, final page of this diary, which we'll wrap up, and then I'll have a eat before I go to my massage. So yesterday I do a power yoga, then tennis. I lose 6-1, 6-1 against the best player I've played so far, and I'm grateful this guy plays me every week, and he whoops my butt every week. I'm swearing and getting angry, which I think is a good sign. I think there's always something I should be doing in my life that is so difficult that it pushes me to the limit where I start swearing and getting upset and angry and frustrated. Like to me, that's a sign I'm hitting a barrier. And, I get upset like hitting shots out of bounds. It's like if I try and hit the ball too hard, it goes out of bounds. And then I try and dink it to aim it, and then it hits the net. I'm like, Jesus. Then I think it's unreasonable that the ball should go out so often because sometimes I hit these beautiful shots. I rip these like 100-mile-an-hour shots that, hit the back corner and go in. Or I dink these little shots that like drop right at the net. Or the guy's on the right side of the court and I'll smack it to the left side and he can't get it in time. I'm like, why can't I do that every time? I guess first professional tennis players have played, as so many hours and they still hit shots into the net and hit shots out of the court. It's like, this is something everybody deals with. But also knowing is doing. A lot of times we think if you can intellectually explain something that's knowing. But to me, knowing is to be able to do. For example, there's a lot of people who could tell you how to play football in the NFL, but there's very few people right now who are capable of physically getting out there and playing football in the NFL. Same thing with getting sober. There's all kinds of people who talk about how to get sober, but the amount of people who talk about getting sober versus the amount of people that can execute it and have healthy, happy sobriety, there's tons of people who can talk about it, very few comparatively who can actually stay sober and really enjoy it, like me, for more than a decade and have an amazing life. So there's a big difference. There's a lot of people who can talk about YouTube, but how many people have one of the there's only a couple thousand channels that are bigger than my original channel. There's only a few channels bigger than my crypto channel right now. I'm close to, maybe in a year or so, I'll get another silver YouTube plaque, and maybe I'll get a gold one day. So there's a big difference in life between people who can tell you how to do something versus can actually do it themselves. And that's just the thing with tennis. It's like that's something that I'm learning to do. And, I can watch videos about how to do it on YouTube, but what I really need is practice doing it. That's why I think I'm really good at YouTube. Now, some people might not agree based on my viewership at the moment, but there's not a lot of people who could do an hour-long crypto stream and an hour-and-a-half long vlog stream like this back-to-back and have them come out even reasonably watchable. But I've done thousands and thousands of hours, made like 10,000 videos in the last 13 years. I know how to do this, and this is me doing it. And, what's great is a video like this could be getting watched 30, 40 years from now. I would love to be able to look back on this week 30, 40 years from now and be like, wow, this is what I was doing. Remember when I used to be able to play tennis against the competitive, hard-hitting people? So to wrap this, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I got a text from a lady yesterday that shared her health challenges. And then, I came up to her after the meeting. I suggested she immediately stop the treatment her doctor gave. Now, some people would argue with that and say, well, you're not a doctor. You've never went to medical school. You have no business telling someone that their doctor is causing them to be sick and giving them a dangerous, unnecessary treatment. I think all of us have the right to come up and question what somebody's doing with their doctor. The same as you could question what somebody's doing with their priest or their lawyer or their banker. Like, we all have the right to question what other people are doing. The medical stuff of its health and your doctor's some god and nobody else should question it is disgusting to me. And all of us have the right to question stuff. So I told her, I think if you want to be healthy like me, you should stop this treatment immediately, because from what I've just heard, the solution to the problem is now the problem. And then I told her you should stop that treatment immediately. And then you should read the book Mind Over Medicine. And I gave her 32 other books to read. Read these books and you'll get healthy like me. And if you do interact with your doctor, you need to have clear boundaries and guidelines for your doctor. And I suggested she go see a different doctor too. Like a doctor that's giving you a treatment that's causing a negative physical reaction for hours is a doctor that is not, to me, one I would go see. So she sends me a message today that says the health issue, which seemed serious at the time, appears to have cleared up, and she is very thankful for my help. She got immediate relief by not going to get that treatment from the doctor anymore. And now the original health issue that caused her to go to the doctor seems to be cleared up. And I tell her, I'm glad you were open enough to share the specifics, and said so many people in these AA meetings will get up there and be like, yeah, I'm having this health issue and it's so difficult in my life and I'm suffering. So just pray for me. And I'm like, all you did was blather your self-pity all over the meeting. If you would have said specifically, like my grand sponsor did, he's like, he gets up in a meeting and he shares and he says, I'm dying of prostate cancer and the pain is horrible. And I think it's related to what my dad did to me when I was 7 years old. And I've been on a journey with that. I go out into the ocean and I just cry and scream. And then I feel a little bit better afterwards. When my grand sponsor shares that at a meeting, now I know, I've got a lot better idea of what his experience had. And at that time, I was able to help him. I came up to him after that meeting and I said, Ty, I need to do a fifth step with you right now. I realized based on what he shared, I knew I could tell him anything about my life. And I poured my heart out to him and I said, Ty, why do I think about all this crap all the time? Like, why do I think about, paying for girls all the time, even though I'm married and I haven't done that in a long time? Like, why do I think about it all the time? I've seen all these things, Ty. This is what happened in my childhood, Ty. And I poured my heart out to him because he poured his heart out and he wasn't in their garden trying to keep some secret. Like he said exactly what was going on and he left me feeling safe to share exactly what was going on. And then he shared much, much more than he did in the open meeting. I was like, wow, what he shared in the open meeting was the tip of the iceberg. And I'm so glad that this lady, because she shared directly in a meeting, and because unlike most people, when I walk up to her and ask her after the meeting, I said, you know, I'm extremely healthy, right? And you know, I used to have lots of sickness. Are you open to hearing my thoughts on your situation? And she said yes. And now look at where she's at. She immediately got to stop that awful treatment. And now the original health issue appears to have cleared up, and it was done in a way that was joyful. And it actually helped her life get better instead of through this misery and suffering and making the medical system money. So then I talked to Laura about how I can help my friend with her health, with her challenges, a different friend with her husband. And, you know, I initially come at it with a bit more confrontational approach, like, you know, tell my friend to, you know, stop telling her husband this and, you know, being afraid of that. And Laura explained is what helped her knowing that she'll be okay no matter what. And Laura helps me see how I can help my friend in a way that she'll be more receptive to help her, because that seems to be what my friend is having trouble with her husband, is that she doesn't seem to know that she'll be okay no matter what happens with her husband. But Laura knows, and this is important when you have a husband who's an alcoholic, who used to struggle with self-harm thoughts and, you know, still struggled with addictive behaviors as recently as this year, you know, being addicted to playing Marvel Snap and dumping thousands of dollars into it and quitting it and restarting it several times earlier this year. You know, it's important for Laura to know that she'll be okay no matter what. Nice to see you, Harry the Moth. Really appreciate you being one of the few on the one of the 3 on the YouTube version of this. So I had a really nice conversation about that with Laura yesterday. And then we also went to Madeline had her winter concert at school yesterday, which was great. I met another parent there with the same name as my wife. And I enjoyed, you know, seeing everybody there. And playing tennis yesterday, I felt a little tired. It was such a good workout. But then at night, I felt this burst of energy again, which came up as aggravation first. But I went to the AA meeting last night, listened to a speaker meeting. The guy at the speaker meeting was a no BS speaker. He talked about, you know, his brother dying, like as a result of a fight he got in, you know, as a part of him being out running around and drinking, and, you know, his brother died. And he talked about another friend dying in the parking lot of a bar. He's like, and, you know, he shared about all that stuff. And it's like this, thank you for really telling your story and for not telling some censored, muted version of it. And I've had a guy threw a fit and lied to me and was all upset, telling me that I couldn't share, you know, my sex history in my speaker meeting because it might put women off. Like, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks in detail about sex, which was one of the first remarkable things I noticed about it. I'm like, wow, this isn't a subject that's just glossed over. This guy had a meltdown because he was afraid that I was going to honestly tell my story. I took it as a sign from the universe to try and, you know, focus on different aspects of my story. But even I wonder if I've watered myself down. I used to be very rough. I'd trigger people. People would come up frustrated after meetings to me. And maybe I've gotten a little more watered down, but I'm not as rough as I used to be either. And there's other new people, they're rough today. So I guess maybe that's just how it is. But wow, this diary live stream really got long-winded. But it's nice. It's like if you enjoyed this experience, it's easier to listen to 2 hours of it at once instead of listening to 7 different videos. And it's much easier for me to just do this whole thing at once. So I'm really grateful for how this came out today. I feel I've accurately covered, this is only 5 days in my life. Bruh, give us the short version. Like, no, this is great. So I only have a few minutes to eat before it's time to go to my massage. So I'm going to wrap this up now. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you, Harry, for being here as we wrap this up on YouTube.